Smith, finding Warner. Dummies, they'll hold it up for Reed. Tips on for a talent. Has Mooney on the hip. Joe Mooney. Try.
You're listening to Kiwiroots Rugby Podcast. Let's go!
And welcome back to another episode of Kiwiroots Rugby. You're joined by your hosts, Felix Filippo and Scotty Poynton. Today, we're going to round up what happened last weekend. There were some thrilling matches, and we also cannot forget about fantasy rugby. Firstly, I'd just like to switch things up and just do a quick check-in, Scotty. So we've been offline for a couple of weeks, so I thought it would be appropriate just to see where we're at before we dive headfirst into some exciting rugby reviews. So how you been,
All
bro?
right. Yeah, busy, bro. Busy. I've picked up a coaching contract for Marist Under 6 Ripper, coaching a girls team there, which is something brand spanking new there. So that's going to be pretty exciting. And I'm actually really looking forward to it in the sense that the girls are going to, well, girls tend to listen far better than boys, eh? There's a lot less silliness.
So what?
There's a lot less silly. But you know what I mean. No, but I'm looking forward to it in that sense. Bro, coaching little boys, fire up, man. When one person gets silly and kicks off, then another catches on, and all of a sudden the whole team is just going absolute bananas. Yeah. Training's out the window. You're yelling and screaming, and you just kind of give up. So I'm really hoping that I get a lot less of that this year. We can just have a lot of fun, and put together a pretty good performance each week. So yeah, let's go, girl power.
I think they got the right man for the job. So please keep us posted on the weekly results of the Under 6 Rippers. Did you say the Marist Rippers?
Yeah, bro. Let's go. Let's go.
No, this could be a nice little feature to begin our episodes every week. So yeah, nice to hear the goss that's happening up in Palmerston North. But man, that wasn't the only type of action that happened up your ways last weekend. The hometown Hurricanes came over to visit and put on a show against the Force. I know they were the last game of the weekend last weekend, but I thought it would be appropriate to start with our favorite team because, man, they rested a lot of starters and they still came up with a pretty convincing win despite the flattering scoreboard. Force, pretty slow start by them and really chasing the match the whole way through. And Hurricanes, man, even their reserves are looking dangerous. They amounted 45 points to the Force 42. Whew. Second place on the table. Let's go. But I'm going to work this in reverse order. I don't know why. I just feel like mixing things up. And the night before, over in Australia, the Brumbies, did you catch that game against the Waratahs?
Nah, bro, I didn't catch any of those games, eh?
Oh, it was...
Tell me what happened.
It was just like bang, 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 Waratahs up ahead comfortably.
Oh, wow.
Within the first, 25 minutes or so. And such has been the story of their season. Ill discipline, silly mistakes. At one point, they had 2 yellow cards. Brumbies, being the classy outfit they are, clawed the deficit and to the point where they were leading. And it was just this kind of tit-for-tat battle towards the end there. And you missed out on a pearler. Brumbies edging the Waratahs 40 points to 36. And Waratahs, they are so unlucky, man. So they've had so many games like this where they're right in the fight and then something silly and they end up losing by single digits. So
it's hard, eh? When you look at their team sheet, you sort of think they should be doing so much better, but then you look at the leaderboard and they're right at the bottom. You're like, oh my gosh, these guys are not even going to make top 8 at this rate.
It makes no sense because the style of rugby they're playing is far more attractive than the Reds and I'd even say the Highlanders. So, man, maybe they just got to... They can score points. They got no issues doing that. But defense wins championships, and I think they may even need to sack their defensive coach if they have any chances of progressing into the postseason. So thriller of a game. Something that perhaps wasn't as thrilling as it was hyped up to be was the Chiefs Blues game. And I did warn our friendly listeners a while back that sometimes these big games, these big occasions can be a little bit too conservative, where there aren't a lot of points scored. There aren't a lot of opportunities. It's literally the one team that makes a mistake, and if you can capitalize on it, chances are you're going to be victorious with like a real marginal deficit. And this is precisely what happened with the Chiefs and the Blues. Did you watch this game?
Yeah, I did catch this game, and you're right. I mean, the Blues. I reckon the Blues actually looked the better side. They were
Yeah.
almost like their own worst enemy.
Yeah.
In this game, and Bowden Barrett certainly had probably one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. Actually, especially with that missed try, and then a blatant knock on, and then an awful kick attempt at goal. It just was not his night at all. But then you've got a couple of missed opportunities later in the match when the game was on the line to draw it up right out in front. Testament to Chiefs defense, but I must give kudos to McKenzie though in the first 30 seconds when they got that steal from a tackle, and then he does that. He sees the opportunity and just takes it. I think that's one thing that has been pointed out quite a bit about McKenzie at this stage, is that he's just so decisive, and like when he makes a decision, he just goes for it. But he has that uncanny ability to actually, have that vision to make these kind of big plays. And put the ball in a space and just hope that he trusts in his teammates to get there and do their part.
Yeah.
I mean, that finish though was something else as well. You can't take that away from us at Narawa. Imoni Narawa. I mean, that guy is lighting up too at the moment. It just seems, you'd almost want McKenzie on your team because you're a star. If you're outside him, you could look awesome.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess that poses the question now. They've knocked off both finalists from last year, and was it their first game? They beat the Crusaders convincingly, and they showed that they can win ugly against the Blues last weekend. I know I may be getting ahead of myself, but are these guys going to be the champions come the end of the Super Rugby
Chiefs
tournament?
Blues? Talking about Chiefs Blues?
No, I'm talking about Chiefs. Are they going to be
the Chiefs? Well, they're still yet to play the Hurricanes. So, I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs do have a pretty solid defensive system. I mean, they were setting up their line pretty bloody quick against that blue side, and they were being very stubborn near the end there. But I mean, the Hurricanes are the best attacking side in Super Rugby at the moment. They scored the most tries. I'm pretty sure they got the best points for as well, and their points differential is the best as well. So, when that tidal wave's coming, mate, sometimes you just can't stop it. It is what it is.
To your point, fingers crossed, we get the win against the Highlanders, and then it would secure a top of the table clash next weekend against the Chiefs. And I feel like to build up some hype around that, because both teams have had like really good seasons up until now. So why not? Why not have another heavyweight matchup and really test whether or not the Chiefs are the real deal? But yeah, more games to come. Let's just quickly round off the Drua turning Fiji into a fortress and beating the Rebels 38-28. The scoreline really flatters the Rebels. The Drua just got out to this hot start, and it looked like no one was stopping them. That's the type of rugby that every team in this league are scared of playing against, and having to try to defend all these flying Fijians who are just offloading like crazy, flankers outpacing your backs, and it was one of those kind of games. We all knew it was coming, eh?
Oh, exactly. It must be so hard to play there, eh? Like I've even listening to on the breakdown. I think one of the women was saying she played there, and it's absolutely horrible trying to breathe in that type of environment.
Yeah.
And you watch it on TV, all you're seeing is a game of rugby, but on the ground. And if you've ever been to these islands, holy moly, it's hard enough just walking around
True.
without a shirt on,
True.
let alone play a game of rugby.
Yeah, like in the middle of
So
the day. Bloody,
yeah, bro,
they're
it's
gonna rock us
definitely a
crowd.
fortress for
Oh,
them. Yeah, they're
man.
very hostile.
Oh man. And if they keep this up, um, look, they could well and truly make the playoffs, and no one's really talking about that. One of the
No,
expansion teams in the draw are gonna make the playoffs. So fingers crossed that happens.
oh, bro, big time. I'm all for that. Let's go, Drew it.
Mm. One team that's not afraid of the playoffs are the Crusaders, and it was a bit of a chess match battle against the Reds. They probably not uh, their most convincing win, but it's another one of those uh, slower type of games where they did just enough to see it through. So they got the win 25 to the Reds 12. And earlier that same night, we had the Highlanders scoring
Woo-wee.
45 points to the Moana Pacifica's 17.
Shit,
Yes,
that's like what a scoreline, eh? Like who anticipated that happening?
nah,
The Highlanders, that they've just bloody turned a corner in the last 3 weeks. 3 wins on the trot after 3 horrendous losses, but they've actually got back some pretty good firepower in their starting lineup, eh? Which
mm,
makes all the difference. I've
totally.
noticed Paddy Parkinson and Hugh Renton are really pairing up nicely.
Shit,
Then you got
yeah.
Mikele Tu'u, who's come into the fray,
Yeah.
who was playing some outstanding footy last year, from
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott Gilbert, he was playing fantastic rugby before he got a yellow carded in that semi or the
Mm,
quarter. He's actually starting to hit some form. So all these guys it's all starting to come together for them now. So I
yeah.
guess they just need to pray for no injuries and they can just maintain this momentum through, well, right through to the end, I would assume. You'd want to take this sort of momentum, yeah. But Highlanders, man, exciting.
uh, Outside of Ethan de Groot, I didn't pick any other Highlander, and I had
Oh,
my
really?
eyes on Parkinson, but I couldn't afford him,
Oh,
and I
no.
wasn't. Yeah, notice that subtle change over to fantasy, guys, because yeah, we're gonna we're gonna spend a lot of time here, and we're all um, yeah, we've dived into this fantasy space, and it's producing some gold, but we've just rounded off like a quick review of the score lines, but that doesn't always translate into picking the right 15, eh, Scotty?
No, definitely not. And I mean, I'm trying my best like every week, to try and predict what's happening, but I just can't get it right. It pisses me off, eh? I'm
Bro.
like, yep, he's gonna have a big game this week, and I
Yeah,
like have all these visions of like all these
yeah,
tries being scored,
yeah,
and
totally.
I'm looking at the matchups. I'm like, yeah, he's gonna wrap him up. There's definitely gonna be a try or two there. Nah, this doesn't happen. Like Rayasi let me down this week.
Bro.
I'm gonna call it out. I
No,
thought he
fair
was
enough.
gonna light it up
Fair enough. More on him later in a different segment towards the end, but
for
yeah,
sure.
100%,
Mm,
100%.
yeah.
And he was in just about everyone's starting lineup, and
Oh, bro.
a lot of people
Yeah.
had him as the captain.
Yeah, bro. Bloody
Thanks, dude,
Rossi.
for a measly
Cracked
8
under pressure.
points.
Yeah, bro.
uh,
Well, I got 14 actually. Thank you very much.
oh,
He's my
7.
captain.
Yeah,
I'm
he
pretty
was.
sure he's
Yeah,
my captain.
yeah, yeah.
I was one of those suckers. Damn it. Oh
Uh,
well.
but just quickly, let's just round up how our fantasy league um, went last week. We had, hey, for the first time, we had um, equal footing at third place. Is that
Oh,
Gary Champagne Train?
it sure is all the way from Auckland.
Nice. And I think that's Ray Hunter's mate. He drew with Taurino's 15.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And second place, yours truly. Thank you very much. And Jonesy, once again, This guy's on a hot streak, guys. He's just picking winners left, right, and center, and is just backing up the chat. So I got nothing bad to say about this guy, but maybe we just we have a look at how he's been picking some of these players, eh?
Let's do it, bro. Let's do it. Should we go on to Jonesy's 15 from round 6?
From round 6. Yep, you got it up.
Yeah. So before we sort of review on who he's picked, let's just have a look at how the scoring is actually being done as well, because I don't think we spent enough time here, and then we can maybe match it up with who he selected, and maybe this will shine a light on why he's number one consistently in our competition. And I don't think we'll invite him back next year. Just saying.
I'm enjoying it. I've got someone to chase.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Oh wow. Fair enough. So from a scoring point of view, let's look at scoring plays. So when for a try, if a player gets a try, they get 5 points. That's pretty simple. Same as on the field. If you get a conversion, your nominated kicker is the only person who will get 2 points for that. Drop goal can be by any player. You get 3 points. Penalty kick is a nominated kicker only. Okay, so they get 3 points for nudging those over. And if they miss a penalty kick, and this also is for your kicker only, they actually lose half a point. So I guess, what is that telling us here? You want to try and select try scorers as much as possible. And then for your kicker, you want to make sure they're the person literally taking most of the kicks. And they want to be fairly accurate. So what guys like McKenzie, your Richimonga, probably got your Lolisio. Would you put him in that category, or is he a bit dicey?
No, he's above average. Yep.
Yeah, Barrett, Geordie Barrett. Nah.
Geordie Barrett's been average this year.
Yeah, true. Okay, well, you only need really one, don't you? So, and I'd say most of us have got a McKenzie or a Timong in our team, so you're pretty covered there. But just be mindful, you don't get those points unless you were actually selecting them as your kicker. I think that's the kicker there, or the catch, should I say? Yeah. Fuck, that was lame. Sorry, bro. All right. So let's just have a look at some of his players, eh? So let's see if he's followed suit with some of his selections. So what do we got here? So I'm just mucking around with my screens.
I got it here.
Maybe you start reading them out, because I can't fit it all on this tiny little screen.
Front row is pretty standard. All Blacks lineup of the Hurricanes, Tyrell Lomax, the Crusaders, Cody Taylor, and the Hurricanes, Ethan de Groot. Pretty solid. I'm won't argue against that. I've normally got 2 out of those 3 players in that front row. Backing them up and rounding up the engine room is Scotty Barrett from the Crusaders, as well as Putty Parkinson from the Highlanders, who had a huge game. He scored that mean try, even gave an assist, and got himself 15 fantasy points, which is huge for a lock. Yeah. And right behind them in the scrum, we've got, and one of my favorite fantasy darlings is from the Reds over in Australia, Harry Wilson, bagging at 19 points, extremely high for a forward of any kind. At the back of the scrum, Hoskins Satutu from the Blues. Pretty stock standard that most people are going to pick this guy. He's been an absolute fantasy stud all year round.
Yeah, can you pause there for a second before we go into the backs? Now, I reckon the forwards are definitely the hardest to choose, because the likelihood of them scoring tries is pretty slim, and especially in your tight 5. So, Putty Parkinson and any of your props, if they get a try, it'll be happy days. But when you're looking at them scoring points from a positional play, right? When you only get points for, let's say they go for a run with the ball, right? A ball carry, they only get half a point, but they have to carry it 5 meters or more. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're trying to rack up points, initially I was looking for ball runners, but I mean, you probably want to pick someone like a Dalton or even a Satutu who are stuck out in the wing, or carry the ball off a line out throw off the top, and carrying it for those type of meters. So I would be looking at those kind of guys. I mean, Harry Wilson is definitely one that loves to hover on the wing and has an eye for the line as well.
Yeah.
So he's got some great picks there, and those two. And Pete Samu, I mean, he's very similar, isn't it? They're all like great runners of the ball,
Yeah.
quick on their feet, and can break tackles. Yeah. Then you got your 2 points for a try assist. I mean, I assume Paddy Parkinson got a try assist for the Hugh Renton try.
Yeah.
They got over the weekend. But then you're looking at their set piece, like, look, forwards win 100% of own scrums. 2
That's
points.
very unlikely.
Right. So like the scores you're seeing here for this front row are actually pretty good, eh? Like, anywhere like 10 plus.
Yeah.
You're probably having a big day in the front row. Scrums won on opponents put in, you get 1 point for that. You're lucky to get 2 points in a game for that. Then you got forwards win 90% of own lineouts. 2. That and then the same goes for the opposite. If they win the opposition, you get 1 point for each lineout one. But yeah, there's not a lot of points, eh? So I don't know. What are you looking for here? You're looking for a solid front row and guys who are winning their lineouts pretty much. And you can actually get a lot of those stats from the Super Rugby. Have you had a look at that?
Nah, I think if you dive too deep in it, you can get pretty lost with targeting a certain score for your forwards. Rather, like, I know everyone's different, but you know the teams who are traditionally strong at set piece. There are, of those teams, some of them like to run with the ball in hand. And so it pretty much cuts the entire engine room down to like a very small amount. And picking out of like that 6 or 7 guys is the hard bit, I reckon. But yeah, because in the first couple of weeks I was looking at those, I'm like, there's no point trying to calculate like winning scrums, lineouts, and so forth.
Yeah.
But just trying to get players with a bit of a spread as far as their offerings on the field.
Yeah, yeah.
And one thing I learned was the difference between week 1 and week 2 is I had a traditional number 8, I had a traditional number 7, and I had a traditional number 6. I was like, nah, screw that. I can stack those up with 3 number 8s if I wanted to, for reasons you just talked about with Harry Wilson and Pete Samu.
Yeah, running. Yeah.
So
the other way you can look at it, because for every 5 tackles they get a point. So you could, if you have a real massive workhorse in Scotty Barrett,
totally,
who's going to tackle all day.
Yeah.
So you're right. You've got to try and spread it around instead of looking at their traditional role and go, okay, he's a jumper. I've got to look at who's got the best line now.
Yeah.
What else can he offer me? Is he a high tackler? Does he run balls? Is he likely to score a try? Yeah, all those factors need to come into play.
Totally.
But I'm doing that each week, Felix, and it ain't working.
Well, Jonesy's doing something right, and that's why we're picking apart his team. Should we go and move on to the backs?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
At halfback, pretty stock standard once again. That's going to sound like a cliche, but if you aren't picking Brad Weber for the undefeated Chiefs, then something's wrong with you. He had a pretty down week, but that's because
he did. Yeah.
Obviously, a team like the Blues, you're not going to get many opportunities. We mentioned that earlier, and his fantasy points at 5.5 pretty much justify that. To partner him in the halves, he's nominated Richie Mo'unga of the Crusaders as his kicker. Wise move. A team that's actually, in recent history, known for their slow starts, but sort of getting into form as the season progresses. And guys like Richie Mo'unga has certainly played like that. He's been a bit hot and cold this season, but I've also picked him as my kicker. And as mentioned earlier, it's only the nominated kicker who gets those kicking points. Really, really annoying compared to some other fantasy apps I've used in the past, but that's neither here or there. Centers, Scotty, has been one of the most difficult positions to pick this season. And we just talked about in the game review the Fijian draw having a hot as start
Hot take.
against them, the Melbourne Rebels, and this fella here, Masi, what's his first name? Yosefo Masi.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They're 13, who also plays out on the wing, offering positional flexibility, but also chances to score fantasy points elsewhere. Man, he bagged himself 25 points, which is, in fantasy
Ooh-wee.
production terms, elite in such a difficult
Yeah,
position such as midfield. And I looked at maybe like the top 5 or top 6 teams from last weekend, and we all had him. Yeah, this guy's really come into form. What, by after like week 3 or something, eh?
Yeah.
So
I've been
yeah,
trying to get him for like probably the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've been trying to get him in my squad, but far out, all these people resting starters and all that jazz. I keep having to like make sometimes more than 4 changes. I think last week
yeah,
I had to do
it's
5, so I lost 10 points. The week before that I did 8, so I lost 40 points.
8.
That was a bad mistake.
Oh, that was the one you cracked the top 3, eh? Top
Yeah,
3 or top
but
4, and then
yeah.
yeah,
So you're lucky. If I had those 40 points, I probably would have
you
had
would
a
have
good
beaten me
day.
actually. No, you would have beaten me. I
Yeah,
remember that one.
yeah.
Um,
But what do you do? You either take the risk spending 10 in the hopes that they, yield more than that. But you just can't call it, bro. It's too hard.
yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
And someone who's been on my radar since the beginning of the season, we know this guy likes to run in the midfield. That is Moana Pacifica's Levi Aumua, who was
Yep.
outstanding against the Highlanders. Even the week before that, he had a really strong game against the Hurricanes as well. So, yeah, Jonesy made a great pickup actually, and I think in weeks past he hasn't had him um, in his team, and he's someone like Levi Olmorsh is coming hot at the right time. So that's also another interesting point is timing the big games that certain players have, and I can attest to that actually.
Yeah.
But this isn't about my fantasy team, but we're going to deviate anyway. Um,
Tell us, Felix.
one rule that I try to stand by in this fantasy thing is try not to make one pick for the week. But I made an exception this week,
Okay.
and I went ahead and dropped Artie Savia of all people, but I had to do it because I was at my maximum cap for Hurricanes players at
Okay.
4.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
I see. Yeah.
another rule that we forgot to talk about. So yeah, maximum 4 players per one team. So I had to drop Artie, and I started Braden Yose. Oh my
Oh, what
lord!
a choice! What a
And
choice!
and the thought the thought crossed my mind. I was like, I should just make him captain just for the sake of it, because
Yeah.
I
Did you
knew
do
he
it?
was going to score at least one try. No, I didn't. I made Rayasi. Yeah,
Oh,
made Rayasi the captain.
gutted.
So that, yeah, I was real gutted about that. But yeah, going down to the whole point of like trying to pick players hot games,
Yeah.
that was like a big win for me personally, because I was thinking we already know how good this guy is. He's been waiting on the reserves list for such a long time,
Oh,
and for a
next year he'll be
team
there.
that's yeah, for a team that's struggling like the Force, who aren't known to have like an astute loose forward trio, I thought this, and it was in his hometown and Palmerston
For
North.
sure.
It's got everything is lined up for him to have a big game, and for him to score 2 tries. I didn't care how all the other players scored. I was like, yes, I got one right.
Yeah. It's all it comes down to, eh?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just go, I don't give a shit who wins. As long as my players
Yeah.
have a day, it's all that matters.
But I just had to get that out there because it's something that I'm really trying to not really prioritize, but just be mindful of is really timing those big games from individual players. So thank you very much, Brad and Yosef, for those 22 fantasy points last weekend. But back to Jonesy's backs. It's just not the loose, the back 3 that we need to go through. And I mean, these are big names, fantasy studs, and
Mm,
international players in their own right. I mean, um, the Chiefs, Sean Stevenson. I mean, even if you didn't like watch rugby or follow rugby and you watch just one of his games, you can just see the way he like darts around the field and makes it so bloody easy that he's going to get running meters if he doesn't score any tries and break a couple of tackles each game. He's unreal, this fella, right?
Oh, bro. Yeah, you've got to have him in your squad.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, he had a bad game. Let's be honest, it's not his
yeah,
best game in
yeah,
terms of yielding fantasy points. But yeah, it's just one of those people you've got to have in team. The likelihood of him having a big day on the fantasy points component is very high at the moment.
yeah,
Very excited.
yeah. And we've already discussed Rayasi. We even Jonesy here, like he's shown his human side and he's made Rayasi his captain. But outside looking in, it
Yeah,
was
what a loser!
that
What a loser, man.
Hurricanes versus Force matchup, and all of us guys were probably just licking our chops and be like, oh, like we got it half right. There was like what 80 points scored in the game, but
Yeah,
they didn't come from Salisi Rayasi.
no.
So that's the disappointing side. So yeah, you can't always get it right. And
Oh,
sorry, you're gonna say?
I was going to say, believe me, when I saw that scoreline, I was
Yeah.
like, yes, boy, I've got Rayasi. And when I logged in, I was like, you
he
didn't do that
played
shit for me.
he played like the majority of the game too. I think he got subbed off what like 60th minute, maybe 60th. He played the majority of the game, and I'm like, how? Everyone else is scoring tries, just not you, the prolific try scorer for the
Oh,
Hurricanes. It
right. Well,
made no sense.
after like the first game or two, I think I was sitting on 80 points. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have a weekend here. Here we go. Finally, top 3. And then it just like never escalated from there. I was so pissed off. And I was like, and even when I was comparing the scores on Saturday night, I was like looking at everyone.
I was
I was like,
like mid-table, I was doing real
yeah.
bad.
But I was in my head, I was like, I've got all these zeros. Like, I know these players are still going to play. So, man, I'm going to smoke it on Sunday. If I'm like in the
Yeah,
middle on
yeah,
Saturday, I just got to
totally.
have a day on Sunday. And I was like,
Yeah,
here we go. Here we go.
yeah.
Here we don't go, apparently.
But I guess that Rayasi pick it's justified, just like the Stevenson pick, and it brings
Yeah.
me a little bit of comfort knowing that everyone else made the same move. You'd be foolish not to pick these guys, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, come on, against the Force Rayasi, you've got to score
That's
at least one
it.
try. One
Exactly what I
try.
thought, bro.
When you've got a number 8 who's been on the bench, not even the bench, he's been in the reserves for how long, scores 2 tries. And like, and they were mean tries too.
Oh, bro.
Duplessis
Okay.
Karifi, if I could fit and that was my plan with Braden Yosset and Duplessis Karifi, if I could fit them both into my team, I would have had them. And Dupes, yeah, he had we know he's amazing from Wellington, but yeah, he chopped up like 21 fantasy points, eh?
Oh, did
Oh,
he?
amazing.
Man, he's not
Crucial
a player that I
turnovers.
think about.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, when I seen him in the starting lineup, it was literally a toss up because I knew I couldn't afford to have
Didn't
them
hit him
both.
yesterday. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So wouldn't have been a bad choice either way, really, if
no,
you got 21 points.
no.
It's just more exciting if your player's scoring tries, that's for
Oh
sure.
man, I was like out of my seat on a Sunday afternoon by my lonesome because one of my fantasy players was having a hot go. It was great.
Oh man. So wait. So Rasi, do we they're playing the Highlanders this week? Do we carry on with
Well,
Rasi? Do we hold the faith? Do we
hang
keep
on.
the faith?
We're playing that game soon. We've still got one more player from
Oh,
Jonesy's
oh yeah,
back
yeah, yeah.
three to get
Sorry.
through, and this guy deserves some hype. Probably doesn't need any hype because he's been playing outrageous footy from the get go, and that's the Reds' Jordan Bataya. Now, I've had this guy in my team for probably like 3/4 of the season. I had to drop him because he wasn't playing. Oh no, actually, dropped him for bloody Rayasi. Yeah, gutted about that. Scores at 18.5, which it's above average for a back member of the back three. But you go and watch those games, and this is one lively character is threatening on the ball constantly, and that's what you want to see is your back three. They're constantly ball in hand. They're setting up tries, scoring tries themselves, and Jordan Batai has done that for the Queensland Reds all season long. So probably
Yeah.
work him back into my team if I can afford him.
Yeah, I think he's one player that like everyone in the past would probably take a punt on, but he would under deliver.
Yeah,
Would you
yeah,
agree with that? But he
I
and
agree.
then like people like would speak like so highly of Jordy Pataya and his potential. I mean, there is the potential for us to actually forget how young he is.
Yeah,
And he's only early 20s or something, right? But he seems to be someone who looks to have been around forever. Um, but maybe he's finally hitting his straps because I think he's like in the top three try scorers of the comp at the moment. So he's doing something pretty well.
right. I don't know if you watched that game against the Crusaders. I know
Yeah,
obviously
I missed
we
it. Yeah,
talked about the Crusaders winning earlier in the review, but there was this one play the Crusaders not like them to run it out of their 22. Lester
yep.
Fainga'anuku, who was also my fantasy team, gets the ball down the left hand flank. He's clear. He's got a runaway. Out of nowhere comes Jordan Batai, and it's just I was thinking, oh, here's a good matchup. I've been wanting to see this. And on the angle, Lester Fainga'anuku, no slouch. Let's not forget the way he dealt with
Yeah.
Shek in their game against the Blues a couple of weeks earlier. But boof, like real solid tackle and stopped him in his track. So
Oosh.
Fainga'anuku at full speed. So yeah,
Shucks.
this kid is no slouch, eh?
Wow. And Nuka is like solid too.
Bro. Yeah,
I mean,
such
that
a
try he scored last week was on the angle off that line out.
yeah,
He made that look so easy.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's the Nuka I think we all expected when we selected him in week one in our fantasy
yeah,
squads.
yeah.
And did not deliver
And
at
he didn't.
all.
Yeah.
And he's
Yep.
back. He's back, baby. He's back.
I how true. I set him on the bench and I was like, oh, this guy's
Give him
bound
a
to
sit
have a
down. Talk to.
yeah.
Give him a talking to.
Yeah.
All right, Lester. Mate.
We need you.
Fully.
We
You
need
do
you.
that chat with him. Fully.
But
My
he
little
had a
man.
massive game and I still had him on my bench. I was like, nah, I don't believe this guy. And
Yeah.
then the second big game, I was like, all right, cool, you can start now.
Yeah, you're back. You're back, bro. He showed
Uh,
you. Oh, awesome.
but yeah, like I'd grade this starting lineup a pretty solid 9 out of 10. Um, these are all players that are, like should be on your radar. You can't you sort of live with your superstar players having a down week, especially against real tough opposition. And from a fantasy perspective, I know I've said it before, I really don't like those heavyweight matchups. They end up being
Yeah,
like fantasy duds.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and yeah, the superstars they just attract so much attention that they don't end up producing the same level of stats
No, exactly.
as they normally would. So yeah,
Yeah,
does
just for
that
the
sort of
entertainment factor.
yeah. But yeah, can't criticize this Jonesy player. I've been chasing his tail for what maybe like 3 or 4 weeks and uh,
I'll
on the
text him,
run.
hey, get him on. I'll get him on. He can share his wisdom.
But yeah, maybe in a couple of weeks' time, you guys will be reviewing my fantasy team as I finally dethrone.
Oh,
How about that?
wowza. This
So,
guy, the
no, I'm not
confidence.
giving up. I'm not
I
giving
like
up.
it.
So
I
I'm
like the
coming after
confidence.
him. So yeah. Well, that confidence paid off when I picked up Braden Yosse for 1 week and I have to drop him again because he's probably not going to make the starting lineup. So he cost me 2 picks actually. So um,
Ouch.
there you go. Well worth it.
Yeah,
Got to
bro.
roll the dice, guys. Got to roll the dice. Um,
All right, let's play this game. Let's do it.
yeah, we get to welcome back Stardom or Situm. Yes, we're still talking about fantasy. And Scott was trying to get ahead of himself when he was talking about Rayasi and whether or not this
I
juicy
was.
matchup against the Highlanders are going to produce some fantasy gold. You want my
Mm.
opinion? Let's start off with him because he produced an absolute stud of a game last weekend against the Force. You have to start him. You do. I mentioned it earlier. Um, you live with those superstars down weeks, and this guy has only had one, so you can forgive him for that.
All right. So that's Rayasi. He's in.
That's Ray Arcee. Is that
All right. I'll
cool?
keep him in my squad. So that's my pick. So then, right, okay, well, let's flip it around. You give me one.
Yeah.
Here we go. Give me a
Ooh.
pick.
Well, we'll stay with the same game. Would you pick up Putty Parkinson after a couple of strong weeks from him, actually?
I think I would actually, based on the fact that what we talked about already from the scoring point of view is that he offers a running game, an offload game, a try assist game, a pretty strong line out game. So he's pretty much almost an all rounder. So I would take a risk and sub him out
Nice.
and put him on my squad. So yeah, I would start him. I would definitely start him. Okay. So I guess that's back to me. I've actually got I would say like 90% of fantasy players would have a Samisone Tokiaho as their starter. But talk to me, Felix. What about Cody Taylor?
Cody
Let's
Taylor.
let's
Whoa.
say Tokiaho's out. Do you sit him or start him?
Cody Taylor.
Yeah.
Man, I sit him because I've already got my
Oh,
backup plan in the Hurricanes. Asafo Omua if ever Tokiaho is not playing, and both of them have one and two of the premier hookers at the moment. Um, I
nice.
can't really criticize you for picking Cody Taylor because he's a solid pick. I just know that those two names I mentioned earlier offer more in regards to the running game,
Yeah.
while putting up similar or thereabout kind of numbers in the set piece, namely the lineouts. So
Yeah.
more probably the one question mark around his lineout accuracy, but thus far this season it's been he's been on par. So
Nice.
yeah, I would I would sit Cody Taylor because, as mentioned earlier, only 4 members of one team can be squeezed into your fantasy team, and I'd like my 4 Crusaders to be elsewhere on the pitch. Fair enough?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like that. All right. So I've given you a back and a forward. You've given me a what? You
Forward.
give me before. You give me a forward. So where do you want to go next? A back, or a kicker, or a captain?
Ooh, okay. Now let's do those ones. Who's your designated, or who you rating as a potential designated kicker? Um,
Ooh.
do you know the games that are coming up? So you got Crusaders v Moana Pacifica. So that's Richie Moanga, and I don't think Christian Liifano is playing, so it's probably going to be guy from Hawke's Bay again. What's his name? Lincoln McClatchy.
Lincoln McClutchy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you got, and then you've got. So to be honest, the 2 kickers that I've ran with for
Yeah.
the season so far is McKenzie and Maunga. I think I did put Noah Lolesio 1 week because those 2 players were out
Yeah.
or were starting on the bench. But if I'm to look at the games coming up, the Chiefs are not playing, so McKenzie's out.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to go Crusaders kicker with Maunga, provided he starts.
Not
I
Geordie
always try
Barrett.
and
Not Geordie Barrett for the Hurricanes, because you know the Hurricanes are going to score a heap of tries against the Highlanders.
yeah, that is very true. I did pick him. I think in maybe the first week. So I'm actually quite alive. Then I've mixed it up quite a bit. You're
No,
right. So
if someone pointed a gun to your head, Richie Moanga or Geordie Barrett this week,
I'd go
just
Richie Monga.
this week, who would you go?
Yeah, I'd go Richie Monga.
Not Bowden Barrett against the Roos
No.
in Melbourne.
I'd go. No. No way. No way. Not after that weekend.
Not after last
Jesus.
weekend's cooking. Oh my lord.
Hell no. Nah, bro. I'll go Richie Monga all day. I'm predicting Crusaders are going to have a day against Moana. the Moana just seem to be running out of steam in that last 20 minutes. They just can't keep up. So I'm predicting lots of tries and lots of goal kicks. Moonga's going to do the job.
Nice,
So
man.
there you go, Moonga. Okay, well, here's the big question for you. Who's your captain that you're thinking of selecting this week?
Oof. You've got to stick with the same game, eh? I've looked at both the Crusaders v Moana Pacifica game, the Hurricanes v Highlanders, and the Blues v the Rebels as potential games that I'd like to select my captain from. I'd anticipate a return for the in-form red hot Mark Telea for the Blues.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that too. Okay.
I think he was only rested for like All Blacks. Designated rest, so I no doubt comes back after after a loss. I'm not sure if I'm ready to pull the trigger in 2 weeks in a row on Rayasi, so that's probably a question mark there. I do like that matchup against the Highlanders, so I could change my mind. But the big one, Crusaders and Moana Pacifica, probably leaning more towards this. I'd go any one of the Crusaders back three. I don't know what it looks like at the moment. Most likely feature Lester Whainganuku in there. Oh no, it's up. Not a big fan of Macca Springer, but if you've been following this season, especially from the Crusader side of things, then you'll know that Fergus Burke has had himself a season and is slotting in really well at fullback. So, yeah, I've got a number of options. I'd probably edge out Whainganuku over, what's his name? From the Blues, winger from the Blues. I just said Mike Telea. But I'm notorious for making that captain's pick my last ever pick and having to change it last minute if I have to.
Yeah, bro. I think you've jumped between like 5 different players, and
and it cost me a first place finish this one time and not selecting Stevenson. So you would have thought that I've learnt my lesson, but yeah, I typically have about 5 or 6 players that I'm eyeing up for captain's railway. So
for the sake of the pod and the people, can you just name a player?
No, I said Whainganuku, but I'm just saying historically I tend to have about like 5 or 6 players, which is
you got back
adding
up,
to my
back up, back up.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Oh, back to you then. Give me a stardom or Sodom for a back. I think you're due.
Ooh, okay. How about in the centres?
Oh, no.
Someone who's got big game potential written all over him, but has failed to live up to the billing. The Blues, Rieko Ioane. Are you starting him or sitting him?
Mate, I've had him in my squad since the beginning, and I am so disappointed in Rieko Ioane. He has not delivered at all from a fantasy point of view. So, look, I'm sitting his ass down, to be honest. I'm going to go take a punt somewhere else. Maybe on Umanga Jensen for the Highlanders, or I don't know. Who else we got? Maybe I've got Levi Almore already.
I wish I had him. I really wish I had him. For some reason, I like this matchup against the Crusaders. I don't know why. But if I can afford him, I'll probably get him. But that's not my pick.
Yeah. No. I've had Levi. I've definitely had Levi Almore from the beginning. He's had probably more up days than down days.
Yeah.
But Rieko Ioane has probably had the opposite, more down days than up days.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I'm getting so frustrated with him being a big name player, and he's just not producing it also. Now, answer your question.
No mucking around there, man. No. And I think that's been one of the more controversial picks for everyone this season.
We've got history. That's why.
Okay.
We've got 6 weeks of history that it's not good history.
Fair
he
enough.
Doesn't know it, but I know it.
fair enough. I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain, and I'm very, very close to pulling the same trigger. So can't blame you for that. How long are we gonna keep this going on for? I'm actually kind of enjoying this, but do you have a player for me that
Uh,
you?
well, actually, I want to know who your kicker is because I think I've done a forward, I've done a back, done a captain, I'm at kicker position. So if you're not picking Moonga, who would you select? Or even look at this next week coming up. Are you a Moonga fan as well, or
Well,
you gonna
Moanga's been my starter from day one, and
okay?
I had Noah Lolesio as a backup just in case he wasn't playing. And the one week that
Ooh,
Moanga wasn't playing, Lolesio puts on a pearl of a show, and I was quite happy with that.
Phew.
But could have been more had he played the full game. I think it was that game against Moana Pacifica where the Brumbies
Oh
scored like
yeah, yeah,
60 odd points, and yeah, I was gutted he didn't play the full game.
yeah.
But yeah, can't pick 'em all as we say on the pod. But who would I pick instead of Richie Mwanga? Um, here's a sneaky pick. I think, and there's a little bit of like crystal ball looking into the future. The Blues hierarchy, the coaches, I mean, looked
Yep.
at their game last weekend against the Chiefs, and they noticed just how important not only territorial kicking is, but goal kicking is. And if you're wanting to make a serious run in the playoffs and even a championship, you've got to take twos and threes where you can. And
Hmm.
Stephen Perofeta has already proven himself to be a much more accurate kicker than
Ooh.
Beauden Barrett. They're going to
Yep.
change the guard soon, I hope, because their season probably depends on it. And all I got to say is just monitor the situation. I'm usually right about these things,
Oh,
but then again,
stop it.
I can live with it if I'm
Confident.
not. But yes, they've, and this is not just fantasy, obviously. Yeah, they got to make a serious decision as to who's going to be leading their goal kicks from here on out. As you
Yep.
said earlier, we're nearing the midpoint of the season. Well, this could be the midpoint of the season this weekend. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
But yeah, the Blues goal kicking woes sorted out,
Mm.
man. It's that simple. Perofeta, it's your guy.
What about one player in Scott Gilbert? Do you think he'd be a good choice with the way the Highlanders are going? Uh,
Scott Gilbert,
they're
is it?
their third top try scoring team in the comp now, 27 tries. I think they're equal with the Chiefs,
Oh,
surprisingly.
no, you're getting
But
confused with Scott Gregory and Sam Gilbert. That's
oh,
why I was like,
oh, my bad,
what's going on?
my bad, my bad.
Um,
So was it Sam Gilbert?
Sam Gilbert, yeah,
Yeah,
he's a solid pick, eh? Um,
he has been in the last probably 2 weeks.
but I look at his
But
fantasy numbers and I'm like, can
oh,
we make up? Can we make up 36 points? Can we make up 29? Can we make up 23? And you would expect some of those figures from an outstanding outside back anyway.
mm,
So I'm like, do I really want to
take a
splash
risk.
out on him? Um, yeah,
Yeah, true.
I don't know because Richie Wong is pretty solid. Um, I'd probably sit him. I'd probably sit him. Um,
Okay.
Mainly because that's the cynic inside of me, thinking that the Highlanders probably won't win that many games and score many
Yeah,
points. You have to take that into consideration. And this is purely results based and
yeah,
based off of the earning potential of their on-field production, which the
yeah. True.
Highlanders haven't been renowned for doing too much of. So
They're pretty hot and cold, eh?
yeah,
Even after 3 good weeks, they could turn out a dud weekend this
dude,
weekend. You just, oh, bro, you just,
yeah.
yeah, can't call it.
And like to contrast and go back to that point about like big game superstar players, they always rebound.
Yeah,
They always have a game where they're back to elite production. Players from the Highlanders, you can't say that. Like you can't guarantee that. So yeah,
yeah.
sorry, Sam Gilbert. Yeah, you're staying on the free agents list
On the
for me,
pine.
mate. Yeah.
Got it. You don't get to eat these with His Majesty. Oh.
But I tell you what, he's a quality footballer, eh? I would have thought maybe the Hurricanes could have, just quietly could have made a play for him and converted him to like the first, to a full-time first five. Imagine
Was he
him.
was he a
Just,
Hurricane originally?
no, I thought,
No,
we were
you thought maybe just go for it.
just go for it. The Ada Morgan Ruben Love project is probably going to take a little bit longer than expected. Ruben Love probably looks more at home at fullback anyway, so that leaves our
Yeah,
first five stocks. And no one knew we were going to chase after Brett Cameron from Manawatu/Canterbury. And then
yeah,
they just make that signing out of the blue. So, I mean, he's been playing really well, but man, if there's a first five that would suit the Hurricane style of play, it is that guy, man.
yeah. Do you reckon the way that Bodie Barrett's playing, maybe he might want to have a comeback? Maybe he's like, you know what, this Auckland Blues is not really my type of rugby. But he has not played very well for them since he went
No.
there.
His,
Let's
his
be quite
best
honest.
his best season was that last, was it 2018 season with the
Yeah,
Hurricanes where they
yeah, bro.
narrowly lost in the semi-finals against bloody Sam Whitelock and his cheating hands in the ruck. Um,
Oh yes, that left a bad taste in the mouth, didn't it?
oh, dude, it was so bad. And Perenara trying to pull that ball out of there, and the ref calls a knock on him, but not the hands. And he was right there to make the call. Anyhow,
Yeah, yeah.
that
Anyway,
was like 5 years ago. It did not seem that long ago that
yeah,
Bowden Barrett was playing for the Hurricanes.
we're still
Man,
salty, bro. We're still salty.
oh
Yeah,
man,
but
what?
maybe he should do it. He should do a mutton on it and just travel down each week. Like, come on, bro. You know, like your best rugby is in Wellington. Just come back home.
Yeah, I would love to see it happen, but I don't know. Maybe the big city life suits him and his partner now. Wellington's a
The
bit
high
too
profile.
yeah, a
Yeah,
bit
that's
too
true.
small time for high rollers such as them.
Well, bro, if Brad Shields can come back, then you just never know. I mean, TJ Perenara left, came back. You never know. But Cameron's playing some pretty good rugby, so I don't know.
I
Might
like
not be
I
a
like the
spot for him.
future, man. Look, I like the future, and even if guys like Perenara, Geordie Barrett, Dan Coles is obviously leaving. Senior players such as Adi Saveas, well documented that he's moving over to Japan for the next 2 seasons or just one? I can't remember.
Might be two.
Why do I get the
Don't
feeling
quote me.
it's two way? Um, I know Richie Wong has gone for four. Anywho, even if
Yeah.
those senior players leave, we've got a pretty bloody exciting young crop
Oh,
of
bro.
players, man. Arnie
They've
leaves,
done
and
well.
then bloody Yosse finally gets a start, or Peter Larkai, Duplessis Karifi finally, holds his place at 7. Um, Cam Roygaard looks bloody awesome for a
Yeah,
young.
bro.
He's the poise and the confidence that guy's playing with at the moment. It looks like a veteran. He's been out there for like a decade almost. He's playing just like
Yeah.
prime Perenara. Ooh, I don't mean to
Does
jinx
he
it.
does he remind you a little bit of LB Matthewson actually? Just
A
thinking
little
about it.
bit the
Like
same
real
kind of
tough and
feisty.
just like
Yeah,
yeah,
real.
electrifying, like fearless, just
Yeah, yeah.
not afraid to steer that shit
Oh man,
and call
and
the
and
shots.
oh, man, he's just like running into some of those big boys. I'm like, oh, as the halfback, as the quarterback of the
Yeah.
team, you need to probably avoid those collisions. So I know
Yeah,
you're the
yeah,
man
yeah.
and playing some hot footy at the moment, but yeah, think about the long
And
game,
we'll
cuzzy.
go. Yeah, bro. No, he's a great selection. I would say something must have changed in their administration because we're so used to our best talent going somewhere before they blossom, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And somehow we've kept our talent, and we're actually pulling guys back into our franchise. I mean, Kenny Naholo is, I reckon, that is like a real good like pickup, like
yeah,
fire out. Has he been great with
yeah.
his 2 appearances so far? Um, yeah, so I'm stoked that we've got him for the future. We just need like electrifying talent on the wing, and we've always had like someone like a Lume Fa'atau, or like a Really Bobo or something like to light things, or Alapati Leua, or like we've
Totally.
always had that that Pacific flair in our back line.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I don't know, maybe he's going to fill those shoes.
Yeah.
Seasons come.
No, it's interesting, and not to keep it all racial or anything like that, but the pairing of Cam Roigard and Brett Cameron to add a bit of stability and game management to unleash some of those like
I
flaring
know
type
you're
back that
saying,
you're talking about.
yeah.
It's like the perfect 1-2 combination, and we've only seen a very small sample size of this season in 2023. Imagine what they could be like in the next 2 to 3 seasons, eh?
It's like was it Jason Spice and a Holwell?
Oh, jeez, I don't, I don't know.
Oh, not quite the same, but like, you know,
They were so hot and cold, if you remember back. And Holwell, as legendary as he is, he had some shockers, man.
yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah, what about Jimmy Gopper? Like he was one that got away, I reckon.
he's the one that got away, bro. Damn,
Jimmy Gopper,
damn.
man. You forget about those guys like him, eh?
Was it on the James Marshall podcast where he was saying like he was just sizing up his options and the talent around him at the same time, and it's just like, man, do I really want to stick around and compete, or
Yeah,
check if the grass is greener? And damn, he's done pretty well for himself, eh?
yeah, bro. Well, who did he play for? Was it? It wasn't the Wasps play, or was it Wasps for ages? I mean, that club's gone under, eh?
I think so.
Overseas.
Is it
Because
Leicester
Jeff
he plays for?
Tuamungalen was there too. He's probably moved on now. If definitely if that club's gone under. I mean, that's why Brad Shields is back because wasn't he with him as well?
Yeah, I
He
think
went
so.
over and played for them. Yeah,
Phew.
crazy, yeah, crazy. Anyway,
We've gone
yeah.
so off topic, man.
It's
But
about
hey,
time someone talks about the Hurricanes, bro, because no one's talking about them,
and
and
they're
they're
just
freaking
casually
second on
sitting
the
at second
table,
on the table. It's
bro.
unreal, and playing some of the best footy
Yeah,
of the whole competition. It's quite insane.
no
Yeah.
one's talking about them. Everyone's
No.
going Chiefs, Blues, Brumbies.
Yeah.
Why are
Yeah.
Hurricanes not in that picture? They're the was it? There's only two teams that have lost one game. Them and the Brumbies. So
Yeah.
they should. Someone needs to start talking about them, and that should
Well,
be us.
they will. Um, they should get this win against the Highlanders, although they could scare us for about 60 minutes.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
that matchup against the Chiefs, oh my goodness, it's going to be a
cannot wait.
cracker. Yeah,
Yeah,
can't wait, can't wait. Oh, I mean, there we go. Is that we're looking forward. Finally, we've come back to the the run sheet of the show.
yes. Oh yeah, that's right. We got one of those.
while, while we're on the subject of looking forward, um, there's some good matchups. I know Chiefs is a couple of weeks away, but let's bring it back to this weekend, eh, Scotty? Stay on
Let's do
task.
it, bro. Let's do it.
You mentioned the Crusaders scoring big against Moana Pacifica. Does it actually happen, or are you just wishful thinking for some of your Crusaders players in your fantasy team?
Nah, honestly, bro. Like I hate to say it, but it's true. It's factual. Moana have the worst defense in the whole
Yeah.
competition, and we know the Crusaders are a 90-minute team, and they're actually starting to find some relative like form at the moment. So I actually think it's going to be a big scoring affair. So nothing
Woo-wee.
against the Moana, but I'm calling it now. I think the Crusaders are probably going to run away with that. I really do hope not because I want to see the Moana turn their season around.
Yeah.
They need that first win, eh? But I just think it's unlikely that they're going to get it from the Crusaders. So I've actually got Crusaders to win by 21 in the weekend.
Ooh. Ooh, ooh,
So
ooh,
yeah,
ooh, ooh.
sorry, my Pacifica brothers and sisters out there.
Nah, I'm not going to argue
Go
that.
against the grain.
I actually agree with you 100% there. Moana Pacifica definitely got to sort out their defense. I'll tell you what, the
Yeah,
game I'm looking forward to the most isn't the Crusaders nor my favorite Hurricanes. I'm expecting both teams to win. But this one here on the Sunday, oh, Saturday's last game actually, the Melbourne Rebels at home against the Blues. Both teams
oh
coming
yeah.
off a tough loss last weekend. So how do they respond? Do the Blues underplay their hand and send a B team over to Melbourne, knowing full well the Melbourne Rebels have pretty much blossomed right before our very eyes this season, eh? They were like not relevant last season, to put it bluntly. The emergence of their first five, Carter Gordon, who earlier this week just got named in the initial Australian side, edging out
Really? Oh,
the
wow.
mainstay Noah Lolesio and James
Hey.
O'Connor. So
Whoa.
well done to him, man, and well deserved. That he's like the
Yeah.
first five version of Tate McDermott from the Reds, just this fearless, up-tempo, non-stop 80-minute style of play. I love it. And he was, even though he was being outplayed against the Draw last weekend, it was just, it's something about these young guys who just come in now and, man, they just have all the confidence in the world. It's great.
Well, I guess that's that's what happens when you get consistent footy, eh? I mean, Nola Lascelles, we've seen has been on the bench. He started, he's been back on the bench.
Yeah.
James O'Connor's been injured. I mean, and I know that Eddie Jones has a philosophy where, players select themselves pretty much, first and foremost. So if he's made that squad, he's considered to be playing some lights out footy. And let's be honest, the Melbourne Rebels have scared a few sides, if not upset a few this year. So, yeah, someone's driving that. Generally comes from that number 10. If the 10 plays well, the team's doing well. Isn't that what they say?
I feel like that's a very appropriate way to cap off the episode there, Scotty. Some wise words from a guy who's played a lot of first five in his career. Oh wait, no, that was your brother.
no, me, just number one.
Scratch the 0.
I've got the mind of a first five, just not the body.
Nice. Oh, you've ripped a few skip passes in your time. I've seen that firsthand. So playmaking skills of a 10. We'll give it to you.
That's it, bro. I've set up a few tries in my life. There you go. I could tell you, but we'll be here all day. So.
Assist King. Oh, your new fantasy name. Let's go.
Let's get it.
Oh, man.
I like that.
There you go. As you know, folks, we love to talk about rugby and poke fun at ourselves. So if you want to hear more of it, please tune in next weekend. We will carry on from today's festivities. Also, drop us a comment. How you been feeling about the direction of our fantasy teams? Can we dethrone Jonesy at the top there? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, you'll see us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So, love to get some chat going. But for now, from Scotty and I, tuning out. Peace out.